Welcome back to It's All Her, the podcast. I'm your host, Jordy Lucas. I'm the founder and editor of It's All Her. I was an actress in a previous life and I'm a mum to a toddler. I've got a lot going on and I have a passion for helping women live simpler, better lives. For the latest in lifestyle and entertainment news, head to itsallher.com. Welcome back. This intro is going to be short and sweet because this week's guest is none other than the incredible Steph Claire Smith, and I know that you will just want me to cut to the chase. Steph is one of the country's original Instagram models / influencers, but she's also an incredibly switched on businesswoman, mother, and all-round great human. We talk about her rise to fame, the evolution of Keep It Cleaner, and how motherhood has changed her, as well as how she's adjusting to work, mum life. So here it is, my chat with Steph Claire Smith. Thank you so much for joining us this week on the podcast. I know lots of listeners are going to be excited to hear from you. How are you going? How's your first day back at work going?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. I am going good. I've got kind of a mixture of emotions of being nervous and excited today. And I have been feeling that way for a while now in the lead up to coming back to work. So I think for a little bit of background, I have been working since Harvey was about 2 weeks old and pretty much up until he did come out. But but I think that's just the way it is when you own your own business, and it's really hard to completely shut off. And it's not that I didn't have the support too. Laura's been very much encouraging, my best friend and business partner, to take breaks when I need to, or, not to pressure me to come back until I was ready. But there were certain things that I was able to do from an early point. And so I've kind of kept my toes in the water this whole time and have still been in weekly meetings and things like that. But it is very exciting to kind of come back and step back into my role and have those bigger responsibilities again. And because I got a bit of FOMO. I missed working with the team.
Yeah. Did I read right that Josh is looking after him full time?
Yeah. So
that's so cool.
Yeah. So Josh and I mean, we've been in a fortunate position. Everyone was asking us, having a baby through COVID, was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? And I think for us, we were actually quite fortunate in that, we weren't affected too badly by it. And in fact, it was probably a good thing because it meant that both of us had to really slow down with work, and a lot of what we do as creatives, we were on the go a lot, and it was very spontaneous work, and COVID kind of put a stop to all of that. And so we had a lot of time, just the three of us, when he was born. And we also didn't get FOMO of our friends going out and everything like that, because nothing was happening. No one was doing anything. So we were lucky, and Josh being so hands-on, I think we were able to see, how that could work if I was going to step back and do a little bit more hours and everything each week, what that would look like. And totally open to the idea of looking at getting a nanny or asking for help, or even daycare, like still open to all of those ideas. But what we want to try first is Josh is in a position right now with what he's doing where he can work from home, and he's got less on. And so he's going to kind of take on, dad life for a while and just see how he goes. But I said it's quite interesting having that conversation, because I think, obviously, very generally speaking, it's just kind of a given, or it's not even really considered. And it's just that the mother stays home with the child and goes on mat leave, and that's just kind of the norm, I suppose. But I think it's been quite interesting having the conversation about changing the grain of that, because it is really different from couple to couple, regardless of there's two mothers in the story, or two fathers, or if it's the father that's going to work or the mother that's going to work. It's different for everyone. And I think maybe the conversation of stay-at-home dads needs to be brought to life a little more often, because it was totally kind of out in the ordinary. Even speaking to Josh, he felt a bit funny about it. Not that he loves being a dad and he loves looking after Harvey, and he knows he can do it and he's capable of it, but I think just because he doesn't know anyone else really who does that, it was weird.
I saw that you were having the Tiny Hearts girls on your podcast, and her hubby is a stay-at-home husband as well, and she often talks about people no one, bats an eyelid when you say that you're a stay-at-home mum. But as soon as you say that the dad's a stay-at-home dad, it's like so foreign for some
Yes.
people.
Yeah, so foreign, and also really celebrated like they're some superhero. Like, I mean, it's a hard job. I just think that, mothers need it. Why don't they get equal amount as recognition for being a parent?
Yeah. My fiance works full time, but I've had comments to me like, "Oh, aren't you lucky that Henry's a hands-on dad?" And it's like,
I think that people who are unlucky,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. We'll talk about more of motherhood stuff later on, but I want to go back to when you were a young girl. What were your sort of goals and aspirations as a young woman?
I was a very confident young lady. Really was. I really loved being in front of the camera. I look back at, old family videos or family photos, and it was just obvious as soon as something like that was out. It's like I was on. Turn the smile on, or be happy to, show someone around. If mum was filming at a holiday house, it was like, let me take over. So yeah, very, very confident in that. And I did always want to kind of play in the space of singing, dancing, acting, modeling. I think as I got older, I started to realize I wasn't so great at singing, dancing, or acting. So modeling was the thing that I decided to become more passionate about. But yeah, it was always something in that kind of creative area that I knew that I had interest in. I never dreamed, though, that it would actually turn into a career one day. And I suppose my other interests outside of that growing up was, sports. Loved playing sports, loved studying it all as well throughout high school. And so, yeah, when I finished school, it was kind of, I was torn between a few different things of what I wanted to do. I wasn't a really strong academic, so I was really more into the physical things. Like arts. And so, yeah, when it came time to deciding what to do and where to go from there, my parents were super supportive of supporting my dream of wanting to try modeling out and just to see how it went, as long as I had a part-time job on the side, was my mum's kind of deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that, and I suppose I was just lucky that it worked out for me.
Yeah. I feel like when people talk about you, it's like you're part of the original sort of Instagram influencer model like group, I guess.
Yeah.
How much do you credit social media to the success of your career?
Yeah. Well, I think social media has played a huge part in building a personality, for sure. I think when I take it back to modeling from the beginning, Instagram was not a thing when I first started. Although actually, you know what? It just started, because I remember I made an account, and at first I was using it just to put filters on my photos to then upload to Facebook. And then I realized it was like a public profile. So I suddenly deleted the same photo that had 10 different filters on it, and realized people could see that. And it really just turned into a bit of a portfolio for me. I got to show friends and family what I was up to in the modeling world when I just started. And I also just kind of posted every random thing, like what I had for lunch or my dog. I was walking my dog. And then, this following started to grow, which was very strange. I remember there was people that I was following when I first had Instagram, and they had 10,000 followers. And I was like, who is this person? Yeah, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. And and then mine started to grow, and I was like, what the heck? Why are people so interested? So
I'm sure though, when you were in New York and working overseas and posting all that sort of stuff, that's the sort of stuff that people are really interested in.
Yeah, I think I've been really fortunate that, I did have a bit of an exciting, life for someone to follow. I traveled a lot. I was really into my health and fitness, and then I also shared a lot of the modeling. So I think that's where my following grew, was because I did share a really broad, I suppose, array of content. Some people followed me because they wanted to just see where I got and what I was doing. Some people followed me because they liked my personality, and then others followed me for, I suppose, the more grounding, humble, home stuff that I was doing. So I think because I started off like that, I was able to just be me from the beginning. And again, there's still times where I'm like, why are there so many people interested in in just me, because really the majority of what I share is kind of all stems from me as a person. So it's still so strange to me, but it's been a journey for sure. It's been about, I don't know, 10 years. It's crazy.
Just Jordy here. Hope you are loving this episode with Steph. If you want to hear my chat with Laura Henshaw, the other half of Keep It Cleaner, you can head to the show notes for the links. Let's get back to my chat with Steph, where I ask her what her boundaries are when it comes to sharing on social media.
Yeah, I think for me, it really comes down to, you know, if what I'm sharing is going to affect someone else, like maybe a loved one, for example. And I mean, there's always going to be a line where, you know, for example, not every fight that I have with Josh, in fact, no fights that I have with Josh will be broadcasted on my Instagram. I'm not going to jump on my stories with a crying face being like, oh, we just yelled at each other. It was really intense. Like that's something I'm going to keep to myself. I'm not going to keep it to myself because I'm ashamed. Like every relationship, including friendships or family relationships, has its ups and downs. And I'm not, you know, I don't want to portray this perfect relationship, because I don't think, I mean, it is perfect in its own way, but I think an imperfect relationship is just the reality. So I think that's the one line that I don't cross over. And then also, as I said, anything that affects someone else. So whether it's a friend going through something or whatever, I'm not going to share anything like that unless they want me to, for whatever reason. But I definitely think that I share enough to make people happy. I know there's some people who really want, you know, above and beyond. They want me to do things like a house tour and all that sort of stuff. And that's just kind of another line that I won't cross, you know, my privacy. And now that I have a son, his privacy is important as well. So,
I mean, I have no following compared to you, but I will not ever share where I am in real time.
Yeah.
And I had never even thought of that, which is really stupid. But before I had Evie, I just you don't think about that kind of stuff. But yeah, you're right, sharing where you live and what your home looks like. I see people do that and I'm like, why?
Yeah. And I am funny about it. And which is why I think it's really upsetting when I see, you know, certain media publications, you know, talking about houses that, you know, someone might have bought or has been seen at or whatever, because it's just such a breach of privacy. I just think that no matter who that person is, we're all human and everyone needs that. I don't know. I don't.
Yeah. I think Abby Chatfield had this recently. She bought a house in Byron or something. And like, why would you do that to her?
Yeah.
You were saying before that people feel like they're owed parts of your life. On that sort of train of thought with the like negativity that comes with being online, have you dealt with much negativity and trolling, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. I've found that it's really ebbed and flowed over the years. Like when I first started growing a following, I thought it was all fun and exciting until I realized how, you know, how much trolling really existed. And people would just say really cruel things, mainly attacking my appearance and stuff like that. And because back then I was full-time modeling, that really did affect me, because that was my number one priority back then. That's what I based every little ounce of my value off was the way I looked. So if I got a comment, especially the ones that played into, you know, an insecurity that I had, that killed me. And it really did affect my day, and I didn't really know what to do, and would often even try and respond to them. And that never, ever ended up working out in my favor. So I learned pretty quickly just to really, I suppose, not completely ignore criticism, because I think there's a lot that can be learned from it. But I suppose the ones that are, you know, surface level, that from people that don't know you, I've learned to kind of ignore them and to spend more time, I think, if I ever want some sort of criticism, getting that kind of reflection from people that do know me and people that love me. And also not ignoring all the positives. Like, you know, over the years, I've had so many really, really beautiful messages of how I've positively influenced someone or changed their life for the better, like really deep, beautiful stuff that I never imagined, you know, someone would ever write to me. And I think there's something in actually spending some time and really taking all of that in, and giving that as much time as we do those negative ones, because it's weird. It's weird that, you know, out of 100 DMs, you could look at one that's negative and it affects you, and you make
that'll be the one that sticks.
It's so just actively trying to make sure that I'm not focusing on the negative and focusing on the positive. And you know, in the recent times, I've realized that you can do things like filter out certain comments or DMs and everything like that. And ever since I've done that, I've honestly felt so much better on social media. Over the last couple of years, you know, cancel culture and all of that is huge. And whilst I think we all do need to, you know, be open to learning and to growing as people, I am scared. I'd be lying if I wasn't to say that I'm scared of cancel culture. I'm scared of doing or saying the wrong thing. And I think there's a line of what's just perceived as wrong in a small group of people versus, you know, what's morally or ethically wrong. And I hope I never cross that line. But I think, you know, trying to please everyone, I've gotten over that. I don't try and do that anymore because I know it's impossible.
Oh, you've got what, like over 1 million, like as if every one of those people are going to agree entirely with whatever you say.
And more often than not, trolls aren't following you. So
gosh, they're a whole different beast, those two. Especially, have you had like mum trolls? They're very special kind of woman that can slide into your DMs and criticize the way you mother your child. It's
that's something I just won't stand for. I just think it's, you know, surely we've come far enough in life to realize, I think especially if you are a mum, you know what kind of judgment that you can cast upon yourself, let alone what others can. It's just it's bollocks.
It's crazy. So you and Laura met modeling. How did Keep It Cleaner evolve? I know I had Laura on the podcast last year, and she said that it has just evolved from like a blog, really. Did you sort of consciously take a step back from pursuing modeling overseas and stuff like that and think, right, this is what we're going to do and we're going to give it a red hot crack?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a period where we were both balancing quite a lot outside of Kick and kind of just doing Kick on the side as a bit of a passion project. But I think when we started to see the difference it was making in people's lives and really, I mean, that changed us for the better as well. Like it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done, really. Is working on Kick and hearing how it's altered people's lives for the better. It's so amazing that you just become more and more passionate about it, the harder you work on it. And so I think there was a bit of a shift where we both did decide to spend more time on Kick, which meant other things needed to give. Modeling was one of those things for me. For a while, I still balanced it, you know, almost evenly. And it wasn't to say that it all needed to end. I mean, we still both have our own profiles outside of Kick and it all kind of works together. Kick's, you know, kind of values are aligned with mine and Laura's personal values. So anyone we work with or align ourselves with outside of Kick generally does feed into the brand's messaging anyway. So I think that's just something that we have tended to focus more on in the last couple of years. But for sure. For the business to get to where it is today, we did need to spend more time on it and less time doing other things. And it was actually, I think we were both really ready. Laura certainly was. I mean, outside of, you know, having to finish her law degree, which I'm so proud that she did get that done. You know, she was really ready to jump into you know, she's now the CEO, but that kind of responsibility. And for me, I still love modeling. There's still a lot I love about modeling, and I still love having my toes in the water there, I suppose. But it didn't give me the same amount of joy as it once did. There was a lot that I started to see through it. And I suppose I haven't grown out of it. But I've just grown out of the idea of it being my career, you know?
Yeah. One of the things that Laura touched on was that you now it would be both of you, are hired by brands because of who you are, as opposed to going to like the cattle call, you know, calls and auditions and things like that. Whereas now brands know you for who you are. And that's a really nice thing, that you're not just being hired for the external. Yeah.
It's so much more rewarding. And I think, you know, super fortunate to be able to kind of pick and choose as well who we get to align ourselves with. Like, obviously that's a very fortunate position. There was definitely a long period of time in my career where I just said yes to every job, every opportunity, and was excited by every single one of them. And that's really important too. I think that does play a huge role in that journey. But yeah, it is super nice now, I suppose, getting to work with people who you're booked for a reason outside of your aesthetics, you know.
Yeah.
It is nice. And yeah, I won't work with people who don't align with my values. I just don't see any point in that now.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, me back in the day, it was just more images for my portfolio and more experience for the goal that I had in mind. And so that has changed for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were saying before about how closely you and Laura work together. When you and Josh decided that you were going to try and have a baby, did you kind of have to have a conversation with Laura being like, you know, my part in the business may change? I'm sure you two being so close, she would have known that that was on the cards for you. But as business partners,
yeah,
what did that look like?
Okay, so there wasn't like an official, you know, just letting you know we're trying now. But as you said, like, she's my best mate. She knows that for years I've wanted to be a mum, and the idea of being, you know, a young mum, I suppose, has been in my mind since I was like 20. And so I think she knew emotionally I was really ready. And we've even joked in the past about us both being pregnant at the same time and like trying to time it like that. But we are both so glad that we did not try and do that, because
oh my God, can you imagine you both?
Oh my God, no. It's just like, I think, you know, that was very naive of us to even consider that as an idea, I think. But we were also, I was, you know, both of us are really aware of the struggles that women go through getting pregnant. We've interviewed a lot of women with totally different stories on their fertility journeys and their pregnancy journeys. So I think we were not highly educated, but maybe more educated than most when it came to the idea of pregnancy. I knew that it might not be an easy thing. And I knew that it wouldn't just take deciding to be pregnant and then getting pregnant. I mean, Josh and I ended up being extremely fortunate, and it did only take us a few months in the end. But that, you know, I had no idea. So I think when I started, I think I was worried about telling anyone, because in case it didn't happen quickly for us. I don't know. I think just because I was aware of that, it wasn't something that I, you know, went to tell her that we were trying. But she was, honestly, outside of my mum, my mum was later. Laura knew before my mum.
Oh my God.
Laura knew before my mum. She was, honestly, I think I did my pregnancy test. Then the next day we went to the doctors, and her and Dalton were the first people we told. And, you know, I think she was someone that I speak to a million times all day, every day. And I knew it would really affect work and everything like that. So I think it was just both being my best mate, so excited to tell her from that point, but then also, okay, she really needs to know about this.
She probably needs to know.
She was the first person. So it's, it was one of those things. It wasn't like, you know, hey, a sit down conversation of, hey, we're going to start trying. This is what it's going to look like. And I think even if we did do that, she wouldn't have known what to say to me, and I wouldn't have known how to take it, because neither of us have been pregnant before or know what it involves, you know, when you have a baby and all that sort of stuff. So I was kind of the guinea pig for the both.
So when you obviously did fall pregnant, how did you deal with the challenges of, you know, emotions and also your body changing when so much of your work is so closely tied with your physicality? Like, did that affect you, or were you just like, this is what it is?
So we were in the midst of COVID, and I was in lockdown. So things like events and traveling and all that sort of stuff that would have been really difficult, especially in that first trimester, I wasn't doing those things. So things like keeping it a secret, you know, was easy because no one was seeing me and I just didn't have to show my belly if I was ever popping. And also I, completely honest, I felt really fine in my first trimester. I didn't get any morning sickness. There might have been a few times where I felt a bit nauseous, but I was really, really happy. I was very fatigued though. So if I was throwing traveling into the mix, or the events that we would have had to attend quite regularly, absolutely would not have coped. But because I was just at home, I could really take my time with things. If I needed to take an afternoon nap, no one knew about it because I just wouldn't schedule a Zoom meeting in for that time. So I was able to kind of deal with it, and it was all fine, really. And then I think when it came time to, once I had announced it and my body was changing and all that sort of stuff, kind of just went with the flow. I mean, I worked up until about a week before he was born, and he was a week overdue. So I worked up until my due date. And that was only because I wanted to, and I felt okay to do so. So I don't know. I'm very fortunate that my pregnancy journey, because, friends like Em, don't have a similar story. And I really do feel for women who don't have that kind of dream pregnancy story, because it can be really, really tough. But it didn't alter my life too much, particularly because everyone else is in lockdown. So I didn't miss out on much.
Because you've had the whole, pregnancy, birth, postpartum in this pandemic, are there things that you're sad that you've missed out on or haven't been the norm?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, a lot of my friends didn't even see me pregnant. Or, I've got a girlfriend who lives in New Zealand who I haven't met her son and her other babies now, like 2.5. And she never saw me pregnant, and obviously still hasn't met Harvey. So things like that I am really sad about. But again, the timing for us, we were fortunate that at least when I was giving birth, Josh could be there. A lot of women couldn't have their partners with them in birth, and that scares me. That thought really upsets me. So, there was times like that we were quite fortunate. And again, I almost think that going into lockdown when he was only a few weeks old actually did us a favor, because we were both stuck at home and we were just in our own little bubble. Because
it's so easy to obviously we had Evie a couple of 6 months before the pandemic hit, and when you have a baby, everyone is so keen to meet the baby and everyone wants to see you and everything, and it's very easy to put everyone else's wants and needs before your own. What surprised you most about being a mum?
I feel like I'm all right at it. I don't know how to say
Pretty good.
I don't know. I really love it. And not to say that surprised me, because I've wanted it my whole life. So, but I just feel like, I think what surprises me is how much comes naturally. I think, whilst I read up a little bit on pregnancy, and I read up a little bit on women's experiences through that, early postpartum kind of period, which I'm glad I did, because I would have been in a lot of shock for a lot of things that happened to my body and what happened to my mind. And I would have felt completely alone if I hadn't read up on that time. So definitely recommend. But when it comes to parenting, or, that kind of past the 6-week point, I had no idea what to expect. And I have learned a lot on the way. And what I've found is that, honestly, when I reach out to either my obstetrician or his pediatrician, or even just some girlfriends, a lot of the time what they then recommend is something that I was thinking to do anyway. So I just feel like, the intuition is insane. It's really awesome.
And knowing what your baby needs as well, is like a superpower.
You can't explain it, can you?
No, it's crazy. What have been some of the challenges for you, especially, I mean, obviously you have been sort of dipping your toes in the work and stuff, but what have been some of the challenges? I know that you are really honest on your social media, and you posted about overwhelm and all that sort of stuff. What else have you struggled with?
Not having my brain anymore. I think I remember you saying you did a interview with the CEO of Sports Girl, and you mentioned at the start of that motherhood is all consuming and it's really hard. Your brain just can't really fit much else in.
Yeah.
And I can totally relate to that. I think that's been the biggest challenge by far, is trying to balance my two passions, because Kick was my first baby. It's still a huge passion of mine. I am still absolutely driven to work on the business and work with a team. But at the same time, I bloody love being a mum.
Yeah.
It fills me with so much joy daily. And suddenly I now have to balance these two responsibilities of mine that I love dearly, that are both super important to me. And it's been really hard. I think, this, as we mentioned at the start, this is my first day back properly. And I think up until now, I've just been kind of winging it. If I get an email, I'll respond to it. If I get a Slack notification, I'll respond to it when I can. Or if I've got a little thing to do, I'll do it, or create something, I'll create it. But I haven't had set hours, and I haven't set myself any boundaries up until now. And so it's been really hard to I wouldn't say be 100%, because I'm never going to be 100% in either, really. I am going to have to split my time, but it's been really hard to be really committed when I'm at work, because I'm still thinking so much about Harvey, and I'm still so mentally and emotionally attached to home. And then vice versa, when I'm with Harvey, it's really hard to be 100% with him and in the moment, because I'm thinking about something that we're doing at work. And so I'm really keen, which is why I'm, equally as nervous and excited, but I'm really keen to see how this new structure goes, because I know for a fact that it'll never feel perfect. I know that balance won't ever feel perfect. And I know that I'll continue to struggle with mum guilt. Like, I know that that's a given, but I'm just hoping that with this structure, I'm able to kind of, commit to those hours and to feel good about putting in and being part of the team again and working really closely with all of them. But then also I'll feel really good when I am at home with Harvey, that I don't need to feel guilty about not being at work, because that's my home time. That is my time that I've decided to be with him. So I'm hoping that helps.
Yeah. I read an article where you said that you've realized that you can have it all, just not at once. And I think having that insight is so powerful, knowing that, just recognizing that is really important, so that you will be able to maintain that mindset of, this is my home time.
100%. And I think it's just, I need to keep remembering that quote. Like, I need to honestly almost say that to myself every single day. And I think the other thing that really helps, again, another chat you did with the CEO CEO of Alabache, she mentioned that, remembering that the kids at home are fine. Like, there's nothing actually to be worried about. Helps her tackle mum guilt from every now and again. And I think that's a big thing for me. It's like, I know they're fine. I know Josh is completely capable. Or if mum's got him, I know she's completely capable. Like, I know he's going to survive. But there's this like controlling thing inside me, which I never thought I'd have it. I thought I was going to be the most laid back mom that literally couldn't give two shits about any routine or whatever. But like, now that I've seen that this particular routine works for us and it makes sleeping easier and all blah, 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 I am like really kind of controlling, and I'm really trying to be better. But I do think that reminding myself, like, he's totally fine. Like, you're not with him, but he's actually fine. And I don't doubt that he's fine, but you can loosen the reins a little, because he's going to thrive. He's going to survive with Josh, regardless of, if they do things a little bit differently. And I think reminding myself of that as well helps me switch off from obsessing over him when I'm at work.
Something, I can't even remember who said it to me, but it was quite like powerful for me, is that it's actually really good for your child to realize that they can be comforted and looked after by someone else, not just mum. So when I am feeling the guilt or whatever it is, I remind myself that it's actually really good for her to be looked after by Nanny and Poppy or Dad or whatever. It's actually really good for their development.
for sure.
Yeah. So how else do you try and achieve, I don't like this word, but balance, because you know, you're a mum, you run this business, but it feels on socials like you have a balanced life. Like you've got a social life, you work out. Like, how do you sort of carve out time for everything?
I work out my priorities first of all. And so for me, my biggest priorities outside of Harvey being alive is looking after my own mental and physical health, and then also Kick as a business. And then, you know, part of looking after my mental health is being connected with my friends and family. I have been, you know, a bit of a hustler and bustler in the past, where I would say yes to so many different events for networking purposes, or, you know, travel all the time and take on every job I could just for the experience. And I don't regret it. I've had an amazing, amazing experience in my careers. But I knew that had to end at some point, because when I was traveling a lot and working a lot, I was barely seeing my friends. I was barely seeing my family as well. And I was also just exhausted. And I think through COVID, a silver lining was that I actually learned as a person, personally, taking things slower, I am that much more productive in things like work if I give myself time to work out or have a bath or go see a friend, and, you know, just take things slower and actually make time to do nothing as well, and not feel guilty about that, and not feel like, because I think being busy is being glorified so much on social media. It's
like a badge of honor, isn't it?
Yeah. And so I just think stripping that back, and I'm not saying I'm not busy, but we're all busy and it's all relative. And I think, but knowing what's busy for me and trying to kind of reduce that a little bit so that I can be my best self has helped a lot. So yeah, I think setting my priorities and setting boundaries around those priorities. But again, I am just stepping back into work. So we will see how I stick to these boundaries and we'll see how I go.
In terms of your relationship, like, I know firsthand, like, having a kid changes your relationship. Do you like set out time to spend together? Like, how have you dealt with becoming parents together?
Yeah, it's hard. And this is something that we are quite honest with our good friends about who haven't had kids yet, because we're kind of the first. It's really hard. It's, you know, parenting it's one of the most beautiful things that can happen for a relationship. You can really see how you can work as a team. And, you know, when you see the other one, you know, the love of your life looking after your baby, there's something really special about that. But it's really tough as well. And you don't always work as the best team. You know, you do get to points where you challenge each other, and it can get hard. But I think being really open with our communication, which has been kind of a rule that we've had from the beginning of our relationship in every aspect of it, has really helped. You know, if one of us is ever struggling, we're very quick to voice it. And I think, you know, I'm really fortunate to have had Josh be so open, I think, as well, with his emotions throughout this whole process. And also he's like one of the best listeners ever. So if I ever need to vent or have a cry, or he's just very supportive in that way. So I'm very fortunate. But I think, one thing that we have noticed, I think we've gone on 2 dates in like 9 months. So, and until you actually think about it, you're like, whoa, okay, that's not a lot. So, and it's not impossible, you know, like my mum comes around once a week, like, and I love catching up with my mum. So it's always hard to, you know, take that opportunity, you know, that he's got a sitter, basically. Let's go do something for ourselves, even though she's often kind of encouraging us to do so. We do need to start to plan ahead a little bit more. And even if it's, you know, once a month, like one of those, she comes every Thursday night, one Thursday night a month, that's our date night. Like we need to start doing that. And we both want to. It's just time to action it.
And life gets in the way. And then you're right. All of a sudden you're like, oh my God, we have not like done anything together in ages.
Yeah, because there is a difference between spending time as a family, you know, the three of you, or however many kids you have, and you know, and eating dinner or whatever at home after the baby's gone down. There's a difference between that and then going and spending some quality time together. So yeah.
And just doing things that you did pre-kids as well. Yeah. Oh, those were the days. We're all about keeping life simple and better for women. So how do you make your life simpler and better?
I think releasing the pressure of being perfect in everything that I do. I tend to put myself on a bit of a pedestal, and I actually went and saw a psychologist a couple of years ago in the first year. Sounds so weird saying a couple of years ago because it was when we were in the pandemic. So how on earth?
Feels like it's been going forever.
Yeah. But I saw her a couple of times because I was really struggling with managing my stress levels and my emotions that came with that. And something that we kind of uncovered in 2 sessions was that I had put a lot of pressure on myself to be a certain way. And I surround myself with, you know, really selfless, positive, beautiful, caring people. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's amazing. But I think one reason behind doing that was because that's who I wanted to be. And it's not that that's not who I am, but I think any time that I wanted to be selfish or any time that I felt a bit down or angry or like I needed to be negative and not positive, I would get so stressed and feel even worse because I was questioning why I wasn't feeling happy, or like, why can't I just be nice at this point? Or why did I have to react that way or whatever? Because I just really wanted to be this like positive person all the time and be perfect all the time.
Which is unrealistic.
Absolutely it is. I mean, Laura is one of those people that I surround myself with who is honestly one of the most selfless, positive. She's amazing. She's like
a ray of sunshine.
She really is. She really is. But I know, because I'm her best mate, that she isn't always happy. She is not always, you know, projecting rays of sunshine, because like anyone, she feels sad or like goes through a hard time or is challenged. And so I think it just really took someone else kind of recognizing that in me. And I think that's helped a little bit. I mean, you know, it's not perfect. I'm not fixed. There's no fixing anyone really, but it's I think being aware of that, I'm less stressed about being okay all the time or being perfect or being good at everything that I do, and just spending more of my time on things that bring me joy and less on the things that make me feel stressed or like I shouldn't be there.
It's amazing how the perspective of a complete outsider can help you. Like I say to everyone should do therapy because it's so useful to have someone
it's like a non-biased opinion. You can talk to your friends and family and they can be amazing support and they can give you really great advice, or they could just be a great, you know, shoulder to cry on. But their advice and things that they say is always going to come from a biased point of view, of course, because they love you and they care about you. But this person is a trained professional who can recognize things in you that your friends and family might not be able to see. So
Well, Steph, thank you so much for joining us this week. I've loved chatting with you, and of course we'll link everything to Kick so that our listeners can give it a go.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome getting to chat to you.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of It's All Her. If you have loved this episode, please rate, review and subscribe wherever you listen. Share it with a friend, and I'll be back in your ears next week.